I want to mention something regarding the internet this evening. There's certain music programs and there's certain programs in general which were compatible with a laptop or an old-fashioned PC. It looks like you need a super snobby sex phone, or what they were going to name it, but they changed it to smartphone because they were going to call it a sex phone when they first brought them out in the early 2000s, but then they decided to change it to a smartphone instead of a sex phone. With these sex phones and smartphones, all the teenagers, all the smelly teenagers that are stupid, that are in sexual relationships with rough men that go around knifing people and all the rest of it, have all these fancy phones. Ooh. But there's nothing you can do about it. But the problem is, you've got people that are older, people that don't want their music downloaded and want it from a disc and want to use a disc drive, or want to use a hard drive, or want to use a USB stick, rather than signals in the air. And signals in the air causes distortion problems and lower quality and frequency issues and whatever, and cause on audio tracks in particular, makes everything sound shit. And if DJs wanted to mix their music, they can't use downloaded MP3 files for if they're playing it on big rigs, because there will be sound issues and it will sound absolutely crap. So DJs only use WAV files, not MP3, and if they do have to use MP3, in the rare occasion where they can't do it with another file, it has to be the highest of 320 kilobytes per second, and that is only as an exception, as if it requires a track that needs to be played and they can't do that specific track. But for actually recording it, to put it onto a CD, or for professional studio recordings, they can only use WAV files, and they can't be downloaded WAV files. They have to be taken from the original recording source, like the record, or the CD, or the DAT tape. They seem to be doing away with disc drives. So what they're doing is they're trying to cause HMV to sell more records to try and get people to stick into the scene of music, but doing away with digital formats, but bringing back the analogue formats. But the problem is not only are they trying to do away with CDs and CD drives, or M discs or Blu-rays or whatever. I was very annoyed when on your mdiscforever.com stopped selling those M discs because they've been discontinued. They relaunched them. Actually, the year they actually stopped those discs, the actual day that they stopped those discs, I went to buy some matches at Morrison's, and it was the same day I saw Sadie Dando's friend Amanda Millis, who was in a relationship with some bloke that whoever that is, and it was just a new relationship that just started as well. Anyway, they got discontinued, so Verbatim went to reissue them, relaunch the M discs with a few changes and a few more to make the disc more durable, basically, from the original one of what Millenniata designed. And they charged a lot for the discs. So obviously they were allowed to do it, but the government stopped them from doing those discs, and they banned Verbatim from making them. And guess when it was? It was exactly the same day one of the neighbours called Grace moved into Thorn House. That exact day that they stopped those M discs and put a ban on Verbatim company from producing them, or anyone producing those discs, was exactly the same day Grace neighbour moved into this place where I'm living at the moment, at Thorn House. So I thought that was very fit in, the timing that they did that. But anyway, as I say, I prefer to use discs. I've always been a disc type person. But the problem is, this time last year, I found out from Catalin, which is one of the staff workers, and I found out from other people, and the people having a discussion in HMV record shop in the Oval, that, and then I had a look online myself, which confirmed what they're saying is true, that they stopped manufacturing laptops with disk drives in them. But it gets even better, because this year, the beginning of this year, I found out that there's no USB ports. So this means that they're going to do away with not only disk drives and blank CDs and blank M-disc and blank Blu-rays and DVDs and whatever other types of discs there are, but they're going to be doing away with external hard drives and anything that's run by USB. So that's going to piss everybody off, especially industrial workers, DJs, music producers. People are going to get really fed up about it. But it looks like they're doing it. They're trying to force everybody to have a sex phone. I call it a sex phone because, for several reasons, I don't call it a smartphone, I call it a sex phone. And the reason I do that is because, sexually, I've never had anyone apart from being raped as a child, and that's it. And the other reason is, when they initially brought these smartphones out in the early 2000s, they were going to actually name them the sex phone and not the smartphone. But it sounded diplomatically incorrect, so they decided to change it to the smartphone before they sold it to the public, and then it was known as a smartphone. But also, in the early days of when they were advertising these smartphones, they were rubbing it in to make the suggestion that these phones are good for sex and good for people who enjoy sex and having partners and sex, and really, really rubbing it in. And, on TV commercials and everywhere else, in the newspapers, but they were really, really digging, do you know what I mean? Really, really giving it some, really doing it in a spiteful way. This is before I had the setups against me, or noticed the setups when I'm walking about. Obviously I was walking into enemies or whatever, but that's what they were doing. So that's the next problem. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is, if they do away with ports, USB ports or anything like that, this is going to mean that everyone's going to have to download their music through signals in the air. And that's the problem. Signals in the air causes a lower quality, causes quality loss. And when you think that a lot of the music that I listen to is recorded in lower quality than the commercial tracks in the mainstream that are very sexual and very good life sounding, so it's not very helpful, that either. And that includes the sort of music, because with some of the represses, the represses are unbelievable today. All my music, because all of that went down when the record companies went under, when the government put music laws in place, it just meant that I lost all my music. And when they reissue it, they have to take it from a clean, good condition record before they reissue it. And they reissue it to the public, but it's got a load of scratches on it, and a lower quality than the original recording. So that's the only way you can get your music now, and that's only on a couple of records. They don't bother with most, All my music's gone. I mean, it's literally gone. I mean, it has gone. And just about went into the dark ambient stuff. But there's been issues regarding that as well, because the discs I had of the dark ambient I had to chuck out because something caused the discs to mess up in the month of November 2023 to February 2024, when I discovered that something had messed the discs up, and I don't know what it is. Frequencies in the air, I haven't got a clue, but they were broken, and it cost me a lot of money, because I only started getting into that music when I was camping before I moved to this place and started bringing these tracks into my life, because I can't get any of my music anymore because it's all gone under, and that's my only alternative type of music I listen to. Although they got the company, that company has actually, which is known as Cryo Chamber in America, has been targeted many, many times. They've tried to get it closed, they tried to stop them pressing, and tried to eliminate people to only being able to download it without being put onto a proper format like a CD. So they don't want people to have it on disc for some reason. But it goes back to what I say, because I've downloaded one of their tracks, and when you compare it to the CD and put it in a program called Audacity and increase the high range, you notice that there's a slight distortion. Like YouTube, when you get these crappy sounding YouTube videos that sound all foily, that's the term I use. I don't know what term you want to use, but it gives like a foily sort of sound where it sounds all distorted and tingly, I'm not sure what the right wording to use. Well, basically it's not too noticeable because the internet's improved over the years, but if you were to use it for professional use or to edit the track, you can notice it straight away, even on anything you download, even to the bestest quality. This is why when you put stuff online, or keep it on online storage or places like that, you're just keeping it there as a basic copy. If you lose a copy, basically. But you do get that foily, tingy sounding effect, and it is noticeable if you listen to it. So that's the problem. And this is why I don't like music from signals in the air. But the problem is, it goes back to what these DJs were saying 10 years ago on Facebook and other places on the internet. And that is, they're doing it for the teenagers, the young people that like their music, and they don't give a fuck about the older generation. They want to give it all to the kids. They don't give a fucking damn about the older generation. And it's caused by the government, or the people higher up in the government, should I say. So the teenagers get their sex, they get their smartphones, they get their good life, they have their good life sexual jolly chart music, like now that's what I call rubbish, now that's what I call music. They got their rock, they got their pop, they got their heavy metal, they got their dubstep, their trap, they got their country and western, you name it, all the big selling music type of music that's like that. The house music, the club tunes, the sort of modern hardstyle tracks, they've got all their commercial music that they want, all their good life, happy sounding, jolly, jump up for joy music, they've got all that. But when it comes to people that haven't had the life that these teenagers have had, and have been violated, possibly, or had a life that's similar to mine, then it goes against you on everything. The whole lot's against you. So when it comes to this digital technology, they're not even keeping it. They've made it clear on conspiracy videos, which is known as the Illuminati or New World Order, that they're going to violate all the people that are born in the 80s. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but people that are born in the 80s are going to be violated over the next few years, and they're just going to do away with it just to please the younger generation and let them have what they want. But they've also mentioned basically how the way the people in the 80s or people that were born before that time have had it, those that have had gone through like struggling type lives, people don't have that so much anymore. It basically mentioned bits and pieces like that, but there's only a small section in that documentary that it mentions, because the video is about 3 or 4 hours long. But it is worth mentioning. But this video is all to do with digital technology. And the next thing is they're trying to do away with cash. So that if you go to a car boot sale or a jumble sale to go and buy a second-hand item, you won't have jumble sales or boot sales, because you'd have to pay by debit card if you bought anything, or your smartphone. So that's another problem. And it does say on the same conspiracy that that eventually you're not even going to be able to have a debit card. It's going to be a card that's connected to your phone, which has really, really pissed me off. Also, it says on that conspiracy that they're going to do away with, in council buildings, council properties, you're not going to be able to have a bonfire. You're not going to be able to use fires in council buildings. They're going to ban candles. You're not going to be able to buy candles anymore. And all cooking utilities are going to be made differently, and you will not be allowed to cook your own meal in your own place. This is not going to happen just at this minute in time. You've got about 10 or so years before this takes place, or maybe just under 10 years, depending on how quick they go with it. But they're going to do away with like ovens, microwaves and all that, and when you cook it will have to be done in a specific way, with a specific item, with one item that you use only. Whether that thing is developed yet or in the shops, I do not know, because I don't know what it is, or whatever it is they use, but yeah, they're doing away with that. And doing away with chimney pots on council buildings. They're not going to be selling candles anymore. They're doing away with things like paraffin lamps, and they're going to be converted into LED bulbs instead, so you won't be able to use paraffin or take a paraffin lamp if you're going camping or going fishing or whatever. So there's many other things. They're doing away with all digital technology of CDs. USB sticks are going, hard drives, external hard drives are going. If you want your stuff saved, it'll have to be on online storage only. Yeah, they're doing away with that. obviously they're already, like I just said, they're already in the phase of doing that at this minute in time. I mean, last year I knew about there being no disk drives in modern laptops and modern computers and whatever else, but I didn't know that they were doing away with the USB slots as well, and that everything's Bluetooth. So that means that DJs who mix records on a turntable, they're going to moan about that because of the quality, especially if they're playing at big rigs, because people want the quality of a WAV file, or it has to be an MP3, at least 320 kilobytes per second, because DJs get quite funny about it, especially when it comes to jungly breaks that have that jingly effect. It's very noticeable in that type of music. So, but we are moving into the future, and obviously we're going to be, the older generation are getting violated, and they're trying to hit the older generation off with the coronavirus because they know too much. So they're manipulating the older generation to get rid of them because they know too much. And they also, this issue of being, this age issue, going back to the Victorian times, a child could go into a shop and buy alcohol and buy cigarettes. Then it went to 16, but this was in a very short period of time. It went to 16, 18, 21, 25, and then that was to where we are today. And now because they've done that, a female doesn't think that they're an adult until they're 30 or 40 years of age. And then they got you down as a sick cunt or something like that. If you're in your 40s and you fancy someone in their 20s or whatever, or late teens or whatever, where going back just 20 years ago, you'd see people in their 40s going out with people who were 18. It wasn't seen as a problem or anything. But there's a lot of different things and a lot of changes where media control has messed up the minds of millions. I'm not actually sure if that conspiracy is still on YouTube, because when it comes to the elite or the Illuminati or New World Order, they seem to get a shot of those types of videos off of YouTube faster than they go on there. So, but if I do find the title of what it is, I shall include a link in this video. But it's at least 6 months ago when I actually saw it, so I'll keep you informed on that one. When it comes to religion, the Christianity believes all religions are going to do away with religions across the world. There's going to be one religion, and believe it or not, it's not the religion you've thought that it's going to be. Not according to this conspiracy video that's on YouTube. Because going back in 2012, they think that Christianity is the proper religion, but there's been some newer conspiracy videos where where it seems a little bit more different at the moment. They think that they're going to do away with Buddhism and all these other foreign religions, and those who are religious, like Hindus or whatever, obviously they're going to have trouble doing away with that, to be fair, because there's too many people, especially in India, that are doing this, and there are too many Islams, in the Muslim faith and all the rest of it. But there's one religion that they're trying to force the richer nations into, and that's Christianity. But this is interesting, because why would they want to force people into Christianity if they're against people and violating people with this, with their global elite plans? But I find that interesting, to say the least, because these people aren't nice. These people are Satanists, or actually I don't think there's no religion. Once you get past the 128th degree Mason, there's no religion. They just go around killing people, and they get away with it, and they can do whatever they like. They can drink blood from humans and animals and do what they like in their own practices, basically, if they do that in that degree. So you've got the Satanic Masons to the 90th degree Mason, but once you reach the 128th degree, it sort of branches out of the religious area, and they do what they like, pleasing themselves, whether they do it because it's a religious thing or whether they do it because they enjoy sacrifice. I'm not sure. There's 360 degrees in Masonry, and those that have no advanced technology and have no ethic science and no in advance before it happens and whatever else, that's all above 300 degrees in Masonry. These are the highest people that you can get, and a lot of these people live underground in underground bunkers, and they live with aliens as well, because there's aliens underground in underground bases. Dulce Base, Area 51. There's hundreds of, probably thousands nowadays, of underground bases where they live with aliens or design materials that are about 1,000 years more advanced than what we have today. Even back in the 90s, they were making technology, and they're about 90 years per year with the modern technology. And then when they get all this noetic science technology and all the rest of it, they can do anything at all now. So they got everything in a million years' time, all that technology. I mean, one thing that just proves that, and that's me going out in the street, all this organised movement around me in a correct way, time enemies in my path to hit me off, you name it, they have all this technology. So that's what they're doing. And they also work with alien technologies to make the things that we use. But they don't need to do that anymore. All they need is technology where they can make something out of nothing, but using a technology we've never heard of, which is about 500 years more advanced than what we'll ever see, possibly even 1,000 years or even more than that. That's more advanced. So it's like the CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, they mess about with atoms and doing stuff like that in the Large Hadron Collider. That's in public view, in public eye. But the machinery and stuff that they use underground is a lot more advanced and a lot more, space, more futuristic than what I'm mentioning. So they can just use something like a tumble dryer, and they can create metals out of nothing basically. And anything from other planets, they can do all this and do all that. So the technology is a lot different. But as far as it comes to the human race, we're just basically closed off pieces of shit that are worthless. But they insult people, they destroy certain people, and then want to get rid of certain people, and it seems to be people that knows too much. But they also violate people, and I'm one of them on the hit list for some reason. But they don't do it nicely, because they take the piss out of me sexually when I've never had anyone. I'm making the suggestion we need to knock you off and rip you to pieces, claiming you've done this and claiming you've done that, and claiming you raped kids and whatever, claiming you raped adults and so on. So definitely up to something, and it's been going on for years and years and years. They've even got the music industry and the TV industry against me to use. That's something else they do. If they want to hit someone off or get rid of someone immediately, they're a time to look like a rapist on television or a child killer, but that resembles that person they're trying to hit off. So they do that, or make music tracks putting you down as doolally, like a Lady Gaga just does. You're a mental case, and just try and use interpretations of people's names. And then, there's so many things that if they need to get rid of someone, they will. And there are many people that they need to get rid of. But because they keep on failing, this is why we're getting the coronavirus outbreaks, as I was mentioning just now, to get rid of the old people that have the intelligence that the modern generation have no idea about. I mean, I live in a building where we've got low intelligence people, and I don't like it here, to be fair. And obviously these are females that see you as a sick cunt, or they haven't got any brains, and they don't believe anything you see, they only believe things that are written down, even though things that are written down is not true. If you were to, that sort of thing. And so we're in a different time. We're under control of the stupid generation. These stupid people are allowed to live. They're dumbed down. They don't pose a threat to the government or anything like that. When it comes to people like me or other people out there, we're in the fucking smoke line. We need to be fucking it off and fucking destroyed. It's as simple as that. So I'll leave it there. Right, so now let's go to religion, shall we? Because the Christianity religion is a mixture of false prophets mixed with truth. But it's all through a space of time. So Genesis could be true, but it wasn't seen as it would be looked at as today. So whether it's written by an elite organisation or whether it's actually a genuine piece of Bible information is not known. But when we come to the Jesus Christ years, we have a police force, we have world controllers, governments and all the rest of it. So it's quite easy to make up a story in the Bible to manipulate people and use hell as a threatening tool to dumb people down, while they spend the next 2,000 years creating a super police state to control everybody in the world. But back then they didn't have the power, so they used the Bible. And this is why when a politician says the Bible's outdated, it's no good anymore, that's what they're referring to, that it's a load of bullshit that's made up to control humanity, to dumb them down, to keep them in control back in the days before they had the power to use the material industrial revolution against everybody. The Black Death is another thing that they needed to wipe out the nation with, because obviously they had some religious tools which were separate to Christianity or other religions, and they knew too much. They knew how to get into communication with the proper gods, or how to communicate with the animals, or how to use their hands, or to have powers. People would have powers, to do things like light fires with a click of a finger or stuff like that. The Druids did it. But these sorts of people, they had information. Many books have been burnt and many things have been destroyed by elite organisations where they need to cover all this information up from the public. And they're the only people that actually have this knowledge and this superpower. Are those people on the top of the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, which is noetic science, programming, technology people. And there's even people higher up than that. These people that use the noetic science are the ones that are making sure everything's in control, while the people higher than that are in communication with God. So, in case you don't know what noetic science is, it's where they use technology, where they know in advance before it happens, years in advance, and they can map out everybody's movement and know in advance what everyone's doing before it happens. It's probably up to about 10,000 years now. They probably know what people are doing in 10,000 years before they're even born, with the technology that they're using today. But, these sorts of people, they're just nasty pieces of shit. They're trillionaires. This money doesn't mean anything to them. All they care about is their offspring, basically, and what they're living for. Anyone that's under the 90th degree Freemason, including those in Parliament, don't know nothing at all. And these Masons that go rambling in the streets, banging drums on a Sunday or whatever, they're just dumbed down people. You've got to be at least a 90 degree Freemason before, possibly even higher than that, before you've got some idea of what's really going on in the secret societies and stuff like that. Another reason none of us have our powers to click our fingers to light a fire, or did what the Druids did hundreds of years ago, is because they put additives in foods to shut you off, and put stuff like aspartame in foods, or different chemicals to dumb you down, or to lower your power, or to block you off from having communication with the outer spirit world and stuff like that. And the only way you can do that really is with illegal drugs. But that doesn't seem to work. That seems to only hallucinate the situation. But what they've done is, because they closed everybody off, it's literally too late for anybody to do anything. And nobody has the information anymore. The information's gone. It's all been taken away from the public. So, that's that. Right, let's talk about underground jungle, and let's talk about underground techno of the early 1990s, say between 1993 and 1994. Because I saw a post on Facebook many years ago, about 15 years ago, just under that. Maybe, I don't know when it was, somewhere in that sort of time period. And someone was having a conversation on a DJ discussion page, and I can't remember what the track was called. I think it was a techno track, not a jungle track. But the people that were supposed to have made this track back in 1993 would have only been 17 years of age, both of them, the two that made this specific track. I can't remember what the track was called, but it was a techno track. Well, they were saying that the track wasn't made by these DJ producers that were 17 years of age. Apparently it's a military-made track that was made by the military, and they were paid to claim it was made by them. However, it didn't mean that they weren't making music, because they were making music as well, but there was these odd other tracks that were being thrown in, which weren't their tracks, that they were being paid to claim as their techno track, to be sold as their own track on a record. And the other thing is, it's the same in the jungle scene. But I've noticed something else. When it comes to these specialised types of tracks, they are not allowed to put it on a digital format like a CD or a digital download. They're only allowed to put it on a record or on the B-side of a very rare underground record, and in some cases they can't release it, and it can only be sent as a DJ promo. So I don't know how accurate that information is, but it's worth mentioning. All the advanced technology we don't know about, but we do have one specific technological tube which we are allowed to know about. So when you consider the Large Hadron Collider has the ability to create a Higgs boson particle which can wipe out the entire universe, then we're allowed to know about that, but we're not allowed to know about the technology that's underground. So it just shows, doesn't it, that if they can do that, what would the technology that they use underground be like? And take into account they're progressing 90 years per one of our years. They got 90 years more advanced technology per year. The technology we have to the technology they have could be a distance of about 5 million years difference. So, I mean, it might not be, but it's a possible theory. Right, this is not done with CERN in Switzerland. This is actually done with an underground piece of technology that we are not allowed to see. But I do know about this specific instrument. I'm not sure what it's called, but they have the technology to destroy your soul, and they have the technology to put your soul into the fire of hell after death, or wherever they want to put it, to their own choice, because they have the ability and have the technology to do this. I mean, if they wanted to, they could kill you, or they could just suddenly take your body, take your life away in an instant with digital technology that they have in deep underground bases. So me speaking now, they probably know what I'm doing. They know what I'm saying. They've got that technology. But if they wanted to, they could just cause someone to have a heart attack. They could cause someone to die, or doing that with the technological material they have in these underground bases. Also, whilst we are still alive in the physical body, in the material realm, we are stuck in what's known as a matrix, which is a material world. So when we die, our spirit goes into a non-physical reality, a non-physical world. Then we go to a plane, but they have the technology to stop you getting to that plane, as I just mentioned, so they can put you in the fire of hell wherever they want to put you. And they can choose, and they can do it. They can map out to cause every single person on planet Earth to go where they want them to go. They won't do it whilst people are alive, because they can disguise it. They can be sneaky. They can keep people alive. They cannot, like I just said, they can cause people to have a heart attack, but they want to do it in a more realistic way where it doesn't look suspicious. So they sort of cause these diseases like coronavirus to hit people off or whatever, or do it that way, or cause dimensions for people to transform and go into a portal where they're never found again if they can get away with it. It's rare they do that, but they do that. So there's lots of things like that, and that's what they do to manipulate people and try and destroy people they don't want to see again. And then they can obviously choose if they want to reincarnate you and put you into someone's body in a different place, so that when you're reborn you can be ripped to pieces however they like you to be, or wherever it is they like you to be. So they're very, very clever. And like I said, they're probably a million years ahead of us with technology. It might not be as much as that, but when you think about technology, back in the 1990s it was 90 years per year advanced technology to what we know. So they're advancing 90 years in technology per year, and then they feed off that technology that's 90 years on, and then once they've got that technology they triple that, and so on and so on, and it brings the technology to millions of years in advance, so it's very interesting. But anyway, I'll leave it there on that part. As far as us closed off people are concerned, we are allowed to know a few things. We're allowed to know about technology like computer technology, how to save a music track, how to download, how to upload, how to use the internet. We're also allowed to know about HARP, controlling the weather, and we're also allowed to know about CERN, using the Large Hadron Collider to use the Higgs boson, or to create antimatter or whatever. And antimatter is very expensive and it's hard to make, and it doesn't last very long either. So if they're using that specific material, they've got to find a way of keeping it stored. But if we go into underground deep bases, they can do that because they have the technology to do that. But anyway, what we get told, we're just getting the surface information. So we're just getting the basics. I mean, we can get told that they have the power to destroy the universe, but they want us to know about that. So they let us know about that specific technology because it poses a threat. They can use it as a threat. That's why. But anyway, let's go to religion, shall we? The Christianity religion. And this is not a lost gospel. This is not a lost manuscript. And there's more than one manuscript. They don't need to claim that they can only find one because there's more. But this manuscript, I think it's in 2012 it was found, I cannot remember. But it mentions that Jesus Christ was in a sexual relationship with Mary Magdalene. And again, they need to cover this information up as well. It's only available on conspiracy theories when it comes to the other pages that are missing, these manuscripts. Well, what happened is when Mary Magdalene was 11 years of age, she was a prostitute and Jesus Christ wanted sex with her and wanted to cleanse her of her sins, and he poured out his spirit upon her and cleansed her of her sins, basically. And obviously they enjoyed it. They had sex. They enjoyed it together. They bowled each other out. That's Jesus for you. So, if Jesus was to do that in today's time, he'd end up in jail. And you've got to take into account when Jesus was having sex with 11-year-old Mary Magdalene, from that lost manuscript, which is not lost at all. He was in his 20s. But back in that time, paedophilia was unheard of, and Jesus was getting away with doing all this sort of stuff. And everyone were like it. But even in the main Bible, the King James or the NIV, they forgot to take out specific sentences that don't look good in there. But then again, even in the 1600s, the King James Bible, even in the 1600s, things they passed even for today. In some countries it's actually illegal because of these specific things Jesus did. In Mark 10, chapter 10, verse 13 to 16, I think it is, Jesus puts his hand and places it over children. Jesus did many things like that. Just went up to someone's children to show his love over them, and then he put his body over them. Again, there's bits and pieces that are missing from that specific Bible verse. But even the basics, the stuff that you even see, the legalised stuff that's in today's Bible, that everyone can pick up and buy, or go to a church and read. Even that looks bad, as it is. So, but like I said, it goes back to what I was saying earlier on. The Bible's man-made. It's used as a tool to control humanity before they had the power to enforce a large police state nationwide. Obviously, in certain countries they have different religions, like Hinduism, and there's the Muslims. You've got Islam. But again, it's written by someone. It's written by Sarah. I'm only joking. No, it's written by, I'm not sure who it is, but it's known as the Quran. And again, it was done by the governments of that country, or the elite organisations, to try and control the people, to close them off. They've been doing it for years and years and years, many years. And religion was the earliest tool they started to use, all religions, to try and manipulate people, to dumb them down, to keep them in control until they had the power to cause new materialisation of industrial creation around the globe with the built-up world we have today. So that's what they were doing. Another thing that they've been doing on planet Earth for many, many years is they've been breeding the reptilian race, which is basically a human with superpowers that's half alien, but is actually in a human costume, so it's an alien that's a human. And these sorts of people are pretty hard types of people. They're very sinister, very dry, very sarcastic, very sour. But with a real alien, you can't touch them, you can't shake their hand, because you get cancer. It can kill you if you touch a real alien. But when the aliens made these humanoids, these reptilian hybrids, then obviously you can touch them. But the way they're made is slightly different. So they look like identical to humans. So this is probably why you go out in the street and you think people are after you or they're going to knife you down. Because they're probably from the reptilian race anyway. And the police, in the high up police force, when you're in degrees of masonry, they know all about the reptilian agenda. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy all the humans and keep the reptilian hybrids. And this is why you can go out and you think, oh, that's an 18-year-old lady, or she's got you down as a sicko, or she sees you as a piece of shit, or you've got a person that walks past going, oh, you're a sicko, or whatever. That's because they're not human. They've got it in for people that are human. They know if that person's the same type of human as them, or if it's not the same type of human as them. And also, people are chipped as well. So these people that are chipped are being fed information in their mind. So if the government want to hit somebody off, something can go through their chip to tell that person to go and knife that other person down that they're walking into, or claim that person's been a rapist, or claim that person's someone like Savannah or whatever, like I'm mistaken as that name. So they do things like that. They're very clever on how they hit people off or destroy people. They don't do it in a way where a police officer would go out of a car and shoot a person dead like they did years ago, killing FK Kennedy or whatever, or hitting off Princess Diana or whatever in a car crash or whatever. They don't do it like that anymore. They do it by the way I just told you. It's more sneaky, it's very clever how they do it today. So, I think that's how that person died. I haven't seen that for a long time, but I think that's how it occurred, the car crash with Princess Diana. So, this is how they do it today. It's much more organised and a more sly and more clever in discreet way. So they can organise traffic and movement control, overhanging trailers on a car to try and rip your legs off from behind, or time a car to smash into you from the side road, time a person that's drugged up, that's carrying a knife to attack you with a knife to hit you off, get someone that thinks you're a child rapist or a woman rapist or a woman beater, and they can time that person to come into you, and then they can time that person to hit you off by smashing you out in a fight. They're very, very sneaky and very clever. Then, like I just said, these people could be chipped as well, where their mind's being told to do this and to do that. They can kill you that way as well. So it's much different than what it used to be than just getting a gun out and shooting someone. So that's the next thing I wanted to mention. Right, let's come to Jesus Christ. Is Jesus Christ real? Like I said, the story and the bits and pieces that have come out of the Bible regarding him and Mary Magdalene and all that sort of stuff proves that he may exist, but he may not exist at the same time. However, people have had encounters, they've had visions, they've had experiences, near-death experiences where they've seen Jesus. Again, what I want to say there is if you look at the technology that they're using in underground bases, they have the ability to cause people to see these sorts of images and to play with people using this technology so that when they wake up back in their bed, if they survive an out-of-body experience, they are alive to tell the story. But it's not actually the real Jesus. It's done by technology that's being surrounded by them to cause this to occur. And the other thing I was going to mention is the catalytic converter that has been put on the back of cars, trains and all engine-driven vehicles that are fuel-based. So basically, a catalytic converter never used to exist on a car. They only put them on there in 1997. That was when they started to put them on there. Possibly 1996, but I think it was 1997. But what it smells like is it smells like vinegar mixed with the smell of rubbing two stainless steel knives against watercress and then smelling it, see what it smells like basically. But it'd be a lot stronger, like about 50 to 100 times stronger per car that passes you in the street. And obviously we've got electric cars now, so these sorts of cars are dying out. But between 1996 and 2024-ish, you had these catalytic converter exhaust pipes on cars, and there's a possibility they're probably still making a few of them now, but most of the cars that we have now are going into electric. Where a catalytic converter has an ingredient or chemical that's within it that can take the nutrients out of growing plants, of food, like fruit and veg. So when you're growing that sort of stuff, all that nutrition's coming out of it. You're not getting the full nutrition because the carbon dioxide that's in that, or the thing that's used in a catalytic converter to cause these sorts of changeable chemicals, affects plant life. So when you're eating an apple or something like that, you're not getting the nutrients you would have before they started putting a catalytic converter on a car. The other thing is, it also causes the clouds to disperse, causing rainstorms. And what have they been doing over the recent years? Causing heat waves while breaking up the clouds to cause it to be sunny every day with blue skies. And when you get these heat waves, what happens? People die. But they die in a way where it doesn't look like it's being caused deliberately. I mean, if they wanted to do it deliberately, they'd set war, they'd use bombs or whatever. But they need to do it in a sly way, they need to do it in a cover-up way. So like the coronavirus, the heat waves, timing people to kill people so it goes unnoticed, like I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, in that sort of way. So I'll leave it there on that subject. Right, let's talk about tunnel boring machines. These are like machinery that melts rock, circular things that are long tube shaped. So what they do is they make underground bases with them. There's always been this concern that if you dig too far down, that the lava could shoot up from under the core of the earth. But what we get told is not true, because the core of the earth is not as big as what it's made out to be. So that means that they can build as underground bases as low down as a couple of 100 miles, and get away with it without upsetting the core. And also, they use these, I don't know how to describe it, there's like temperature machines, but the technology that they use is more advanced than technology we're given, meaning that if a microwave breaks after 5 years, or a washing machine breaks after 5 years, or a fridge lasts 30 years if you're lucky, their technology doesn't break. They make sure that they use the bestest quality stills and materials, alien technologies, and what they make through these. I'm not sure what the name of the machines are, because I've not really studied this subject well, but they've got machines where they can make materials that we've never heard of, not even alien materials. They've got the technology to do all that. But like I said, the technology they use, they could probably be about 1 million years ahead of us, and they've got the materials to do this, and things don't break. And if they do, they have a backup plan. So they're all organised down there. So, worth mentioning. Right, let's move on to the subject of sexuality, shall we? Although it's not really an irrelevant subject for the elite to piss about with, with pissing about with people on planet Earth, or taking the piss out of them, whatever. Because they're evil, they would do what they can to destroy anybody on the dumbed down planet that we're all living on. So if someone's been sexually abused, like myself as a child, and never had sex in their whole life, and they're getting known as a rapist, when it's being done on a mass scale and that person's had it for many years, and they think that it gets worse and worse, and it reaches a level where they think it's good enough to tear that person to pieces, what they do is they kick in and join in, and they use their elite force against that person to rip that person to pieces, because they enjoy ripping people to pieces. They enjoy burning babies on stakes. They enjoy playing about with babies on fireplaces and laughing about it in rituals and whatever else. And these are not the highest people either. People as low as a 90th degree Mason do this. There's 360 degrees of Freemasonry in total. The people above the 300 degree know about noetic science and knowing advanced technology, and mapping out everyone's movement and knowing 20 years in advance before what that person's doing on that day in 20 years' time. But you've got those that are under 300 degrees that don't know nothing about that. So that's that on that subject. It wasn't until the 1900s that this technology came in, where we had record players, CD players, tape players, and eventually laptops and computers and smartphones. Well, believe it or not, Have you ever wondered how they were cutting Bakelite records to create audio tracks back in the 1800s when you had the Bakelite gramophone? Well, firstly, you need a cutting tool, and you need to put that information in a computer to create that record to play the music. But we're talking something like the 1860s or whatever. I'm not sure the decade of when these Bakelite records and gramophones came out, you know. But so, when it comes to this technology that they've had has been kept and hidden from us for many, many years. So even when we did get the technology, which started to come in around about 1910 onwards, the proper technology, into the Edwardian period, they were using stuff like Windows 2000 or something like that, you know, or Windows, I don't know what, you know, whatever it was. So this technology they have, but also to even manufacture any of this stuff that they had, like the fridges in the early days of the 1920s or something like that, the first television in 1910 or something like that, 1920, I can't remember the year. You have to have technology to know about it. Well, this technology that they've been using to bring into the material world in the recent years, they've known all about this for probably about 300 years before they even let us have it. So when they had this technology, they were only using it for themselves. And they probably started at the beginning of all this before they let us have it. And when they let us have the technology, they make sure that the technology we have, we're going to know nothing about to the technology that they'll ever have. Because their technology we wouldn't be allowed to ever see because of how advanced it is and what they can do with it. So, just wanted to mention that part as well. There's an FBI agent, whatever you want to call it, that worked at Dole Space in America called Phil Schneider. In 1995, he decided to come out of the thing. He's been shot by aliens. He's had a thing fixed to him, and whatever. He almost lost his life because it's burning. Because what aliens shoot out burnt him, and the person that actually shot the alien actually died because the alien shot him back. But the alien also shot Phil Schneider. But he came out to say the story, and this was around mid-1995, and he did a set of 5 discs, but I've only ever seen a couple of them because those 5 discs are not easy to come by. When one of the talk shows he does, he near enough goes to the stage where he mentions this noetic science, which is technology that people know in advance before it happens, in many years in advance, like I've mentioned on this video. But obviously, when he did that, he nodded his head. He said, "Oh no, it'd be too dangerous to sort of say, oh, he did something like that." So, but back then, even with the stuff that he came up with, it was interesting, and a lot of it was quite hard stuff, but I don't think there was any need to hit him off because of it, because I don't consider that the information he gave was really that how do I word it, sharp to be hit off for. The radio is the very first tool they used through electronic devices of communicating to people, to brainwash people and to dumb them down, followed by the television. But before that it was newspapers. And then obviously later on, once they got the TV in control, they started putting a load of films on telly to brainwash people, to get people connected to the TV, to stop people going out. And then if we go further down the line, they started bringing out game consoles to keep the kids in control, to keep them dumbed down with all that technology. And even music. They brought out music to dumb people down, to throw their thinking off from escaping the matrix or having connections with other sources or whatever. So since the 1800s, you've also had, well, it goes back further in the 1800s, you had like traditional medicines, but they started making other types of medicines, like medicines that have chemicals and other bits and pieces put in with them, roughly from the 1800s onwards, and that's another thing that they used to dumb the nation down. And now the nation's completely dumb and the nation's completely stupid, and everyone's out the people's way of who are underground, working with underground technology and doing what they want to do. They're not bothered. If people are not brainy enough to know what's going on underneath us, those people are safe. But if people know what's going on underneath, they want them hit off immediately. Another thing they want to disguise is history, and anything that looks negative. So if you take a 1920s Ericsson fan or whatever, or a 1940s fridge, or an old-fashioned radio or telly, or the back of a TV that looks creepy, gives that look where if you plug it in, it's going to explode or whatever. That's something else they've been covering up on. Any inventions of the earliest technology, you will notice that they designed everything to give that scary look or that eerie look towards it, or gives that sort of spooky look. That's something else they need to disguise. I'm not quite sure why that is. But if you look at the old school jungle tracks that were made in the early 90s, and some of the underground techno tracks, but not so much in the techno scene as mostly in the jungle scene, they were putting symbolical messages in music, or they were making deep tracks that suggested old-fashioned instruments or stuff like that, using symbolism and cultic samples and whatever else. Why do they need to disguise the history of the inventions of these sorts of technologies, or why do they need to do away with music that has that interpretation or suggestion to it? Just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Let's go to dinosaurs. Did dinosaurs exist? Yes, but do you know how they came here? It was not actually part of this creation. Aliens brought them here to try and kill the human race. But they didn't succeed because men were living in caves, and something caused the dinosaurs to die. But I'm not exactly sure how. But how to all die is very interesting, because you'd have to use something like an atomic bomb. But if we look at this technology that I've been mentioning, that it could be millions of years in advance, and by the year 90 years on top of that, and then taken from that 90-year period of technology on top of that, and so on, it does make you wonder. And then obviously you have these other animals like snakes and dangerous animals. Let's go to Snake Island. Why did they put all the snakes on Snake Island? What are they disguising there? What have they hidden there? Or what's underneath there? Because nobody can get to it, because they'll end up dead if they go there. And did they use these as a weapon to kill all humans on Earth before they had the technology to do other things? No, I don't know that for certain, but it's just a possible theory. Right, does heaven exist, or are there places in the universe that are like heaven? And if so, it's not going to last much longer, and shall I tell you why? Because going back to the 1990s, they sent a blast into the sky to destroy the heaven that they discovered in 1993, I think it was. They discovered a planet in 1993 through the Hubble telescope with angels that grow up to about 50 foot in size, smiling, that are on that planet. What they did in that time period is they zoomed out into space. The easiest way to describe this is they zoomed out a fireball that's going to hit that planet and destroy it. So if you're thinking of going to heaven when you die, that planet's not going to be there in so many years' time. So I'm not exactly sure why they needed to do that, but they obviously wanted to destroy that specific planet that they nicknamed Heaven. So, worth mentioning. As far as the media goes, when they do things like that, they use the excuse that they're trying to knock out a satellite, when in actual fact they're zooming out a fireball to destroy other planets. Because they have the technology to do this, you see. So, that's what they're doing. Right, let's talk about people that need to be chipped, shall we? Eventually everyone's going to have to be chipped, because this one chip, the people underground can know where everybody is. It's as simple as that. They don't need the technology above ground. They can tell from underground because they use different frequencies than what they use on what we get. So basically, for example, if we step in an area and we go towards an underground base, or we go to the Antarctica and go to an area where we're not allowed, whether it's in aircraft or whether it's by foot, they'll be able to locate us and they'll be able to take that person off as fast as possible. But if you're not chipped and you don't have a mobile phone on you or a smartphone, they can't trace you as well. The only way they can do it then is with noetic science. So they have some idea of where you could be, but it's easier for them to do it if that person is chipped. So that's the reason we want people chipped, and to locate everybody's movement on ground anyway, above ground, sorry. All the domed area, the people on top of where we are, not in the underground bases. And that's what they need. That's why they want everyone chipped, so they know what everyone's doing, where everyone's going, and what they need to do to people that they don't want being around and stuff like that. So that's that on that part. On a biblical point of view, being chipped in, I can't remember what side of the hand it is or wherever it was, but I think it's on the right hand, would be known as a mark of the beast or something like that. But you've got to take into account when the Bible was written by the elite to keep humanity in control. There's not just a Holy Bible that was written, as I mentioned earlier. Thus most religions were written to be controlled before they had the power to impose a super state worldwide into the material revolution that we're in now, of the built up world, which we didn't have years ago. So years ago it would have been just grassland and flowers and plants and living in cabins and stuff like that. Today we have houses, we have warehouses, we have cars, we have vehicles, we have industrial buildings and stuff like that. So that's what I mean when I say the new material creation of the modernisation of the world we live in today, basically. Are there other planets in this universe which are like planet Earth? Would you want the answer? The answer is yes, there is. There are many planets like Earth, but they're not going to expose it to the public. They keep it covered up. But there is actually loads of planets like planet Earth in the universe. And people from the elite that are in the highest degrees, like 360 degree Masons or the 200 degree Masons or whatever, and higher up, have probably travelled there and are probably living there. But you've got to take into account, they've got technology where they can live forever. So if they get, their bodies start to wear, they've probably got these patches which they can put on them, where they can electrically charge their body, or they can do something to their body, where they never die. And they can probably cause themselves to go younger or older, or do different things where they never die. So these people that, I mentioned the technology underground earlier, these people never die. They live forever. But that's only because they're rewarded with the technology that God gave them, if you want to use that. But people like us are on the surface, we're all the people that know nothing. And we're just here, left to die. So that's the next thing I wanted to mention. Right, the next thing I want to mention is, will they use the Higgs boson particle to wipe out the universe? No, they won't. They'll never do that. And the reason that they won't do that is because these high up people on the top of the pyramid, in the elite, they can come and go into space, into different planets, but they're planets of Earth, basically planets that are the same as Earth, but they can travel, they've got technology, as I was saying like just now. So, and obviously these people are with partners as well. All these people that go there, they have girlfriends and boyfriends, but if they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it has to be of the purest quality. So they have to have the purest looking of male or the purest of looking female, because these people that are high up think they're God, and they think that they can do what they want to do, basically. And obviously, because they're lucky people that were born to be in these positions of power, they get all these luxuries and are able to live forever and ever and ever without dying. If there really is a God, I don't believe that God would come in human form to planet Earth, to be fair, because one person being known as God that saves the world seems a bit conspicuous with me. You do know whenever you watch something or listen to something, you do know that everything you're listening to is twisted, so everything's in reverse. So if a music track is telling you that you're not a paedophile and that you're a hard man, you know it means in reverse, don't you? It's very clever how the system works, because they don't like anybody on Earth. The people on the Earth, they don't like. The people on the underground bases, even some of those, don't know as much as the people that are high up, or the 360-degree Mason type people. When it comes to the cultic things, if you were to go in places like shops where they sell normal things, books or whatever, there used to be a time where you could buy Ouija boards, tarot cards and all that sort of stuff. But the New Age movement leads you to higher dimensional forces, and if you believe in these sorts of religions, you have things like using mirrors to opening portals to other worlds, sound frequencies like 432 hertz, because all music that's recorded out there is in 440 hertz, which is a non-tuning phase. 528, 9 something, and 432 are all God frequencies, which can cause changes, and there are many other frequencies that the CIA use that we'll never hear of, which they use to transform things and do different things, which can lead to opening portals and doing other types of things which are supernatural. So that's worth mentioning as well. On YouTube, someone tries opening a portal with 525 hertz mixed with 528 hertz and succeeds. Now, that's not guaranteed, but when it comes to sound frequencies, soft gel tones, they put these frequencies in. There's a possibility that they can do this sort of thing, but you've got to take into account when something is recorded onto a CD or something's put onto YouTube, there's a slight space of time, which is less than a quarter of a second, which changes that frequency to another frequency. So when you're actually listening to those frequencies, you're not getting the exact frequency that you should be getting, and you won't be able to perform these actions like opening portals or whatever. I think it's Fritz Springmeier who does the 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati, who used to be an ex-robbery person. He mentions that if you go against a system or against a ball, you'll end up being singled out and targeted and have your life taken. So, just makes sense, doesn't it, really, on the stuff that I just mentioned. William Bill Cooper did a documentary called Behold a Pale Horse. They originally wrote that as a book, and then he did a talk show sometime in about 1992 area, where he actually got bumped off. So he got hit off because the information he was given was hidden information regarding some of the stuff in the Holy Bible. And I think he's actually a Christian, I'm not sure. There is one that's a Christian, and that's Dr. Chuck Missler, and he does the Return of the Nephilim, where he talks about the UFOs. And obviously, we go to the Bible, in Ezekiel it does actually mention stuff about flying saucers. It doesn't actually directly mention it, but is in there. But going back to what I said earlier on, there's no guarantee that the Bible's true, because it could be like a story that's been put there to control us by the elite before they had superpowers to control the world using the police state and a built-up industrial revolution. When it comes to conspiracy theorist David Icke, his stuff's quite interesting when it comes to trying to leave the Matrix or being stuck in this material realm. And obviously our bodies are built up with atoms, and what we see is just an illusion. And that is actually true. That's not made up. We are actually built up with atoms. It's only because the way our mind works, we're actually seeing things differently than the actual non-physical realm. And this is why when you die, you go back to the spirit realm, and stuff like that. Basically, to cut a long story short.